For any folks that aren't able to attend, we are recording this. And so, again, my name is Jennette Munn. I'm the Director of Admissions here at CHSU-COM. And we're going to go over the application and some tips and things like that that you can utilize when looking at your application if you've already started it or when starting that new process because it can be daunting and we want to make it as easy as possible. And though for you guys to know that we're here to help you along the way as well. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. All right, same thing. If you can give me some thumbs up or anything like that so that you guys can see my screen there. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So application tips and tricks. Hopefully you guys at least know where you're going to go to do your application. But just as an explanation, most DO schools in the United States or osteopathic schools will utilize what's called a COMAS. So AACOMAS. And a COMAS is a centralized application system where you put in one application and all the schools that you are applying to can see that application. And so we'll kind of go through what that looks like and what the application itself and everything looks like. But before you even do that, make sure that you are planning ahead. So wherever you are in the process, it's never too late to start planning a little bit for what's coming next. So if you haven't started or if you're in the process of applying, make sure that you're researching the schools that you want to apply to. Do they align with what you're looking for? Is their curriculum the way that's best for you? What are those things that are important to you to make sure that when you are interacting with this school that you're finding that information out so that down the road you're going to be happy with your choice if you get multiple choices, right? Which is hopefully the goal to have multiple offers. But if you get the choice later on, you want to make sure it's the right place for you and that you're going to be happy with that decision. So do that research ahead of time. It's going to help you with your application. It's going to help you with on the monetary sides of things so that you're not applying to places that you don't want to end up going to. And then also, it will help you in the interview as well because you've already done some research on those schools. Additionally, you want to make sure you meet the requirements, right? Try not applying to places that you don't meet the requirements because then you're spending money doing that and having no return on that investment. So make sure you're looking at the requirements for the school. There's something called a Choose DO directory that has all of the DO schools that are in a COMAS that you can compare based on certain criteria. You can find things that are in your area based on average MCAT or whatever it is that you want to look at. The Choose DO directory can actually help you with that and compare and contrast schools. You can also make sure that you are reading, once you get into a COMAS, reading all the instructions carefully, because that could be something that prevents your application from moving forward. Maybe if your transcripts aren't all submitted or if there's something that you're missing, all of that kind of stuff is explained in the directions. And if you're just following those, you should be good. Okay, so make sure that you're doing your due diligence to not only research the schools to make sure that you're best utilizing your time and efforts, but also following all the instructions and everything that are sent to you or are included with your application. The other thing, give yourself time to complete the application. You don't want to wait until there's a deadline coming up and then you're rushing and you forget something, miss something, put in a placeholder and forget to remove it, all kinds of things like that we've seen, trust me. And so give yourself time to go back through your application, make sure everything's done the way you want it and that you're including everything that you want to include. So uh, the applications in ACOMAS, it opens every May, usually the first week of May. And so that's every year for the next year's cohort. So for example, this admission cycle is the 2025 to 2026 admission cycle, where it starts in May of 2025, and our deadline for us is March 1st of 2026 for those students that are starting in 2026. So just keep that in mind that deadlines, there's a long period of time and they open every May for the following year's cohort. So be aware of those deadlines. Make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time before then to get things done. We do recommend that you start your application early or submit it early. You can submit it on that very first day if you want to. And so spend the time to really have it prepared. If you're not ready to apply for this cycle, you can still start an application, see what it looks like. Just be aware that some things don't carry over when you carry over to the next cycle. So obviously don't spend a whole lot of time putting in something that's not going to carry over, but at least it'll give you an idea of what that application looks like and what to prepare for. And then those things that do carry over, you can go ahead and get completed or start working on. So just as something that you can do as well, you can start an application without actually applying to anything. And then sometimes or some parts of the application are very time consuming. The personal statement is something that a lot of people struggle with. That can take a lot of time. There are things in the application that you have to submit that are on other people's timelines, like transcripts and letters of recommendation. So, those are things that can take a lot of time. Additionally, there's a section where you have to put in all of your coursework. That includes, the name of the course, the amount of credits, the grade, all of that kinds of stuff you have to manually enter unless you're purchasing the system that actually can do that for you. You can purchase, but otherwise you're entering that in manually. So just know there are places that could take quite a bit of time, which is also a reason why you want to give yourself enough time to complete it. And don't wait till the last minute. A lot of people do. If that's, the timeline that ends up being your timeline, that's okay. But don't do that to yourself if you can. Try to get things done and planned ahead of time so that you're not rushing at the last minute. So what to do first? First, you want to create your account. So you'll log in to ACOMAS. I usually just put in acomas.org and it'll bring this up. They do have some overlap sometimes, so you just want to make sure that you have the correct cycle selected, and it'll be in the writing on the main screen. So 25, 26 is the current cycle. So click that, and then you can create your account. Once you've created an account, you'll receive an ACOMAS ID number, and that will be your specific ID that you will kind of carry on throughout the entire cycle. That's probably one of the ways that many schools will identify you and make sure that, they're talking to the correct person because some people have the same names. So just make sure that you are aware of that number and where to find that if you ever need it. So the first thing I would suggest would be to complete the college's attended section of the application first. This is for a couple reasons. One, the next thing I'll talk about is ordering transcripts, but those transcripts can't be attached to your application until they have the actual colleges in your application that they can attach it to. So filling out that colleges attended section is going to help get you started. And then once that's created, then there will be a little button that you can click to request the transcript from that university. And it will kind of tie it all to your account. It creates a form and everything to go with it to request that transcript. And these are final transcripts. You want as many final transcripts as you can. If you're still taking coursework, obviously you'll just get the transcript as it is. Just know that if accepted, you would need to submit the final transcript later on once you have that. If you are submitting final transcripts for us, we do accept those. You don't have to send an additional transcript to us later on. So just keep that in mind. Not every school is the same in that regard, but for us, we will accept the final transcripts that are in ACOMAS. Again, if it's not final, we will ask you to send us a final one later. So ACOMAS will, once you set up the colleges attended, then you will be able to request your transcripts. So you want to arrange for all official transcripts from any college or university that you have attended to be sent to ACOMAS. Don't send it to the school. Send it to ACOMAS, and ACOMAS will make sure to verify all the coursework and everything that you've entered matches what's on your transcripts, and that's what the verification process is looking at. This will include all of your coursework and everything else. So for you guys to enter everything in, make sure that you're using your transcript so you're not missing anything. A personal copy of your own to put in all of that coursework and everything. They do not evaluate foreign courses, but schools will often require you, if you did get foreign coursework, to submit a WES, a World Education Services document that has the conversion to US credits and things like that. That is not evaluated by ACOMAS, but might still be required if you have foreign courses. So All of your transcripts must arrive to a COMIS before any deadlines. Again, another reason why you want to do this first is because you don't know how long it will take them to get those transcripts sent or any of that. So make sure that's done soon. And then you can utilize, like I said, a COMIS to request those transcripts, and it will attach an electronic transcript to it, or it will attach a form to it that shows your ID to make sure it goes to the correct person in the correct college and all of that information. So we suggest you do it through the application system. And they're all done electronically, at least that's what they prefer. If you need to send a paper copy, make sure that it is addressed to a COMIS and not addressed to you. They will not accept those. Anything that's faxed, scanned, emailed, or anything like that, they won't accept. So it needs to go directly to a COMIS if you're doing it electronically or by mail. So you will need every college, and then they only do the electronic transcripts through Parchment or the National Clearinghouse. So make sure that you're aware of that as well. And I think that's mostly it about transcripts, but that can be something that holds people up even before the application even gets to us. So make sure that you are, following those directions and making sure you include everything. If there's a transcript that comes through that shows another college that you didn't actually include on your thing, that will hold you up. They'll deny it, they'll send it back to you, and they'll say, hey, you're missing this. So just be aware of that. Those are things that can hold up your application. Okay, letters of recommendation are another thing. You're on someone else's timeline, right? If you send out a letter of recommendation, it's up to them on how long it will take them to write it and get it back. So make sure that you're doing that early. Some recommended letters of recommendation, we see them from physicians, professors, employers, supervisors, all that kinds of stuff. Those all count as letters of recommendation, but make sure you're paying attention to what the specific school requires. You are allowed up to 6 total slots in a COMIS for recommendation letters, and then after that, you can't submit through a COMIS. Again, all of these are going to be able to be seen by any school you apply to. So just make sure that those letters of recommendation aren't specific to a specific school unless you're only applying to that school. But for CHSU, we only require one science faculty letter from someone that has taught you, and then one additional letter. We prefer it be from a physician, MD or DO, specifically DO, but it's not required. We just need one science faculty that taught you and one additional letter writer. If for whatever reason you're a non-traditional student and you've been out of school for over 2 years, and you haven't had a science class in a while, you can reach out to us and we can see if we can make an exception. We will check to make sure that you haven't had any science courses recently, and then in that case, we would accept a physician letter in place of that. Again, that's an exception, but that is something that we offer for those non-traditional students. Make sure you're cultivating your letter of recommendation writers relationship now, right? So if you're going to be asking them for a letter, make sure it's not like, well, I didn't really know them. You don't want the letter to say that. And trust me, we get those. So make sure that you're visiting during office hours and letting them know that you're going to ask them for a letter of recommendation. Set up a meeting. I'm probably going through these already. So make sure you send them out early, give them a heads up and let them know what to expect. They're going to get an email from a COMIS that says, hey, this person has requested you be their letter writer. And here's the format. Here's the, what you would fill out. Here's where you attach your letter and then send it back. And so those can be very quick or they can take a while, especially if you're doing committee letters. Sometimes there's deadlines with that as well. But all of those things are things that you want to take into consideration when you're doing your application and making sure you get all of that submitted in time. And if it's not, we'll still review your initial application, but we can't move your application forward, at least in our process, until we have everything for your application, including the letters. So again, getting those done early can really help you kind of expedite your process. And the way that it works is you're going to put in their contact information, so name, title, email, and that will be sent to them via email, and then will come back to a COMIS. One last thing for letters of recommendation. Make sure that your letter writer knows it should have letterhead if possible, when possible. a date. It should mention your name, obviously. And then some kind of signature and contact information. It doesn't necessarily have to have all those things, but it should. So kind of reminding them before they send it, or even doing a follow-up email of like, hey, I just sent your whatever, like make sure you include these things. So again, if they can include letterhead, a date, signature, and then contact information as well. Okay, so those are kind of things that all letters of recommendation should have. Okay. Another thing that usually holds people up, personal statement. This is a tough one, right? Could you just throw it in AI and come up with something? Yes, but is that going to really tell your story and let the person who's reading it get to know who you are? No, not at all. So I definitely recommend writing this yourself and making sure that it hits all the things that are being specific to you, to tell your story and to let us know why you're even going into this profession in the first place. And it's really important to our admissions team because your personal statement backs up and or starts the process of us getting to know who you are and whether you're going to be a good fit for our program. It also um, gives you the opportunity to explain things that you might not really have had a chance to explain in the rest of the application, your why, all of that kinds of stuff is really important. Does it need to be flowery and super descriptive and all that kind of stuff? No, you can write your application and be to the point without being robotic, right? Like being yourself and giving some explanation and details. Um, but making sure that it fits within, the space that you have on there. So don't copy paste it. That will flag it for plagiarism. Um, and you don't, again, want to write it about a specific college because your application is seen by all institutions that you're applying to. But we really just want to get to know who you are. This is the best place to do that. Your experiences and things like that will back up what you're writing in your application, but this is really the place that you can kind of share a little bit about who you are. Um, so that's basically it. We have a whole nother presentation that we do on personal statements as well that goes and dives into this in a lot more detail. But it's definitely something to start early, revisit often, step away, come back, have somebody else review it, just to make sure it makes sense and explains everything that you want it to about you. I've got a couple of questions here. Let's see. If a letter of recommendation is sent later in the application cycle, do we have to update our COMAS application and let CHSU-COM know about the newly added letter, or will it be sent to CHSU automatically? All letters of recommendation that go into your application, there's not a notification that tells us, hey, it's been added. But if we've been waiting for it and we haven't moved your application forward, then we do check that on a weekly basis to make sure that if something was missing and now it's in there, that we're moving you forward at that time. But you can always reach out to us and say, hey, so and so just submitted it. Just wanted to let you know, kind of thing. That's okay too. If we're not waiting for it and we've already kind of moved your application forward, then you don't need to reach out to us because what will happen is when the committee reviews it, it will already be in there for them to review. Let's see. Is it okay to send an application later in the cycle? Yes, we accept applications all the way up until March 1st, and there are people that submit their application on March 1st. We still review them, we still go through all of that and everything. Just know that everything needs to be in the application system by that date. It can't be you submitted your application and then you get your MCAT 3 or 4 weeks later, you get your um, transcripts 3 or 4 weeks later. No, that won't work. Everything needs to already be in there by that March 1st deadline. But yes, we still review applications. You're being quote unquote compared to more people at the end of the cycle because there's a lot more people in the application cycle at that point. But we certainly still do review applications. Okay, I think I got let's see, once we fill out the letter of recommendation contact information in the secondary application, is there any additional step we need to take for CHSU-COM to access the letters? Nope, we have access to the letters. So what they're talking about is in our secondary application, we have a section for evaluator verification and just putting in, who's your science faculty letter writer and their information. That is for the admissions purposes. We already have access to your LORs. It's just to kind of tie the two together because you might have a total of 6 letters, and we only need those 2 that we're looking at. So that you don't need to do anything else after that point. All right. I think I got all the questions. I will continue on here. Oh, hold on. For anyone that has questions about their application, you can always reach out to comadmissions at chsu.edu. If for whatever reason you haven't heard from us, or if something, if you have questions about anything, feel free to reach out to us. We're always going to help you guys with anything that you need. All right. Okay. So moving right along, other sections of your application. So can you leave a section blank? Yes. If you don't have anything to add, you don't have to put anything in there. We don't want you to make something up or put something that wasn't really a great experience or anything like that in there. If it's not adding to your story, then I would recommend don't put it in there. However, if you can add something in there and there's something significant or something that, helps tell us who you are and what you've done, by all means put it in there. So this could be in your experience section or your achievement section. All of that kind of stuff is optional, but it's still important if you have something that you can add. So yes, we want to know what experiences you've had. There's um, a couple different types of experiences. There's work experience, health related experience, volunteer experience. There's research, um, and then also I'm missing something. Extracurriculars. So like all of those things you can add in there. If it's, that really you have a hobby, that maybe not necessarily is what you want to put in there. But if it's things that really kind of, you were a student athlete and you did all of these things and got a presidential scholarship, or that kind of stuff is important. And it's part of your story and part of what you've experienced. So all of those things you can put in there. So if there's a way to not leave an area blank, great. Tells us a little bit more about you, throw it in there. If you don't have anything out in there for that, don't fluff it up. We committees can tell that it's just fluff and you just put it in it or put it in there. Um, so try and steer clear of those situations. But they want to know about you, your accomplishments, leadership experience, things like that kind of set you apart from other applications possibly. So all of those are important. Here are some examples of the different areas and what you can put in there. So for healthcare, it's both paid and unpaid work in a health related field. Employment is paid work that's outside of the healthcare field, and not research, because you could put that in the research section. Extracurricular activities, those are things like clubs, sports, things like that. And then any honors or distinctions that you've had, you can put those in. Research that you've done, whether paid or not, and then scholarships and any additional licensures. So like if you're a CNA or you've got an EMT certificate or any of that kinds of stuff, you can kind of put in there as well. So these are just ideas of things that you can put in those sections that maybe you haven't thought about, but all things that would be relevant for those specific areas. All right. And I believe Mr. Moon is checking the chat, but I will keep my eye on that as well. Okay, so once you create your account, it's going to ask you to add a program. This is any programs that you are interested in applying to. This doesn't mean you have applied to them. It will just start bringing up it will essentially, what you'll do is you're getting on the mailing list for that school. They'll be able to see you as an in progress applicant at that point as soon as you push that little plus sign. And so you might start receiving emails and things from them. It will also give you access to their school specific page, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But the main application is for all of the schools, and then each school will likely have a school specific page for something specific to that school. But once you add that program, then it's your intent to apply essentially. You can always unclick a program if you haven't already submitted your application to them. So let's say you have 3 different programs. We'll say these top 3 here, and then you decide you don't want to follow through on one of them. You can just uncheck it if you haven't already submitted your application, and that will remove you from their in progress list as well. Okay, so that's one way. And then as you're going through your application, make sure you're checking your work. And at the very end, before you submit, make sure everything is correct. Go through every single question or every single section to make sure there isn't something that you put as a placeholder of like, fill this in later, or, anything like that. You remove any of those things, you check your grammar, everything. So make sure you're reviewing your applications before you submit them, and then that you're including everything that you're supposed to include. Okay. If your email changes, if you move, any of that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that that's updated in your application because that's what schools use to contact you. If you change phone numbers, any of that needs to be updated. The other thing I would recommend, get a professional or create a professional email. Okay, this is something that the schools are going to be emailing you back to. So if you have, you know, fancy feet 43 at gmail.com. Maybe not the most professional email, cute, but you might want to create a professional email to use for this. And then that way, the only things going to that email are the things that are dealing with your application. So the other thing is remember, if you're using your school email, sometimes those go away when you graduate, or get limited or things like that. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind as well. But yeah, make sure all of your contact information is current and correct, and then reread everything for accuracy. Can't stress that enough. Okay. So basically at the end or a section of your application, if you look at the tops here, so it says My Application, Add Program, Submit Application. These will be the tabs that you kind of have at the top. When you go to the Submit Application tab, it will show all of those schools that you have had that you pushed the little plus sign for in the previous screen when you add a program. It will show them all, oops, went too far, in a row and show you how far you've completed on all of those. If you've done all of your application stuff in your primary application, the only thing that you would have left is the school specific information. So when you click on, for this screen, our school, when you click on it, it will bring up the school specific information for you to fill out and finish, and it will be done. And as soon as that's ready, as soon as that's completed, that check mark will turn green, the submit button will get ungrayed out, and you can always download your full application and everything as well. Just know that your first application is $198, and every application after that, I believe, is $65 or somewhere around there. So you can get fee waivers for that initial fee through ACOMAS. I recommend everyone apply for the fee waiver. If you are approved for it, then you get that fee waiver and you can utilize that for your first application. If you're approved for it and they don't have any additional funds, we will still honor it for our secondary application waiver. Obviously, it wouldn't go towards your initial application because they would be out of the funds. But for the secondary, we will waive that for anyone who's approved for the ACOMAS fee waiver. If you don't even apply for it, then obviously we can't do anything with that. So just apply for it, and then if you do get approved, we will honor that for our secondary fee. Always, you can check your statuses of everything on this page as well. Your transcripts and your rest of your application and everything will be on this page. And like I said, you can download it and print it and save a copy of your application, which I would recommend just in general, especially if you are carrying things over to the next year, you have a copy of it so that if you need to re-put something back in that doesn't carry over, you've already got that ready to go. So that's kind of the final section. And then once you hit submit, your application will go through a verification process through ACOMAS, like I said, to verify that your transcripts match those the courses that you inputted into your application. Oh, let me check and then where do we apply for the fee waiver? So it will be in the actual application process here. Do not submit your application until you have been applied for and received or processed for that fee waiver. If you submit beforehand, it will not work. You will not get that fee waiver. So um, make sure that you are applying for that and giving yourself time to get a response for that before you submit your application. Okay. And you can apply for it well before you're ready to submit. Just know that you have a timeline. I don't exactly remember. I think it's in the link that he just put in the chat, but there's a specific timeline that you have to use it once it's been approved. I think it says 2 weeks. So there you go. Thank you. Um, so just make sure that you're within 2 weeks of being prepared to submit your application before you apply for that. All right. So during your application process, you want to be very professional. You are trying to be doctors, right? And you need to start preparing and acting and doing all those things now, acting like young professionals and things like that, because everything you do from this point on can be seen, right? Stuff you post on social media, things that you post on Student Doctor Network, you know, email responses, everything, all the interactions that you have. So every interaction is an opportunity to make an impression. Good, bad, or otherwise is up to you. But every interaction is an opportunity to make an impression. So just keep that in mind as you're interacting with admissions folks, other potential classmates or faculty or any of that. You want to put your best foot forward and make a good impression. So make sure you're responding to any email notifications that an admissions team sends you, or if you're confused or anything, you can always respond. Make sure that it's in a professional manner and within, a decent response time, I would say. So make sure you're checking your emails. Again, if you have that one specific email where everything's going, it makes it a lot easier. And then also make sure to periodically check your junk or spam folder to make sure that nothing's accidentally going there. And if it is, marking it as trusted so that it doesn't go to the spam in the future. For any interactions in person, dress professionally, at least business casual, if not business professional, depending on the situation. If you're going to an open house or something like that, you can be more casual. But you're trying to make an impression, you're going to see. So, maybe a little more dressed up than just t-shirt and jeans. If you're going for an interview, make sure it's professional, or any kind of professional interaction that you're going to have at the institution. Make sure you're dressing accordingly. And then if you are needing to cancel an interview or any kind of commitment that you have made with an institution, be sure you're notifying them immediately. That includes if you get multiple offers and you've decided on one, let the other one know. They're not going to have their feelings hurt. It's the nature of admissions. So just letting people know and making sure that everyone's aware of, where you're at, is helpful, and it's professional and really the best way to do things kind of throughout the cycle. So being prompt, making sure you're keeping track of everything, dress to impress, and then being communicative with, decisions and things like that you've made. Okay. And then my last slide here just has some QR codes for some of the stuff that we have here to follow up. If you want to follow up with us, set up an advising session, come to a campus tour. If you want to start your application, that's the ACOMAS application down there, or recordings like this. We have a YouTube channel for the pre-recorded presentations. So this one will end up on there as well. But that top code will take you to that YouTube channel, and you can watch other pre-recorded things that might be helpful to you going through the process. So with that, if you have any questions that you haven't already asked, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and leave this up just in case you guys still need it. But if you have any additional questions that I can answer for you, please feel free to throw that in the chat. Or if you want to unmute yourself, just know we are recording this, so you can unmute yourself as well. Does CHSU offer in-person interviews for local individuals? We offer virtual and in-person options. We do one in-person interview per month. Anyone is welcome to come to it. It doesn't have to be just local folks, but we have both local and virtual options. And we have another question. How does the secondary application work, assuming we're selected? So once you've submitted your primary application, admissions team does an initial review to see if you meet our minimums. If you meet our minimums, then you move forward to getting the secondary application. The secondary application for us includes two short answer questions, like very short essay, and then an evaluator verification section where you're putting in your science faculty, required science faculty LOR, and then the one other LOR person that you want us to count for that. We'll obviously look through everything as well anyway, but it includes that. And then there's a $100 supplemental application fee that is a link to that is sent after you've submitted everything else. There's also a section in there if you have any kind of not infractions, but like legal things that we need to be aware of. Otherwise, it's just NA, if that's not applicable. But our secondary is very, very simple. So that's basically how the secondary works. Once you've submitted your secondary application, at that point, we review all of your letters of recommendation, make sure that your payment has been submitted. At that point, once those two things are done, your application is complete and you're in the pool at that point of candidates waiting to potentially get an invite to the interview. We typically send our invitations to interview once a month for the next couple of months or interview slots, depending. So if you're waiting, we usually do that every month. Let's see. By chance, can you share the logistics of students that come from in-state and out of state? So as far as like statistics and everything on that, we typically have about 10 to 15% of our class is from out of state. Not that we don't give a lot more offers with that, but out of state folks tend to also potentially, if you're good enough to get an offer at one school, you're likely good enough to get an offer at multiple schools. So they might also get an offer from somewhere closer to home. And for a lot of folks, that makes sense, right? And so if they decide to go there, they don't come here. So we definitely give out lots of offers, both in state and out of state. We love to have a diverse classroom. So we certainly encourage out of state folks. But yeah, if you get an offer closer to home, then it, for a lot of folks makes sense to stay closer to home. So we have about 10% of our class ish or more that is from out of state. Let's see. Do you have any tips for students that are interviewing this cycle? We will have an interview tips and tricks as well, or do's and don'ts, something like that, coming up as well. We might have a pre-recorded presentation in there on that from this past year, but mostly be professional, follow instructions. For us, we send things a week ahead of time so you can kind of prepare for the interview. But yeah, I would just say it's okay. Be yourself. Let the schools know who you are. Everyone's going to be nervous no matter what I say, but but for us, our interview is not meant to like scare you or catch you off guard. We're not asking you about the Krebs cycle. We're just trying to get to know who you are and if you're going to be a good fit for our program. Let's see. What is the latest MCAT accepted? The latest MCAT we will accept is January because anything after that, you won't get your MCAT scores in time for that March 1st deadline. So just keep that in mind that if it's after that time, then it will likely not be reviewed for that current application cycle. How do we go about selecting a letter packet and selecting a letter packet and individual letters for the LOR? So if your school offers a committee letter, we will accept that. Be sure that other schools that you're applying to also accept that because some schools don't. So that's part of that research ahead of time. As far as finding letter writers, if you need a science faculty letter for us, then you would want to start with your science faculty, right? Like make sure you're going to their office hours, make sure that they are aware that you're wanting to get a letter from them and sit down and have a conversation of like, hey, why, what do you want me to have in this letter? And, who are you as a student and what can I include? And all of that kinds of stuff. You can have a meeting with a advisor or a teacher or anybody who's taught you in the science field to start that cultivation of that relationship and figure out what that letter is going to look like. Outside of that, it could be your employer if you're wanting to do additional letters. Again, you get up to six. Less is more, in my opinion, when it comes to that. If you can have three really great letter writers, then you don't need six. But if you feel you need six, or if it shows you a broader variety of the things that you've done, then feel free to add all six. But there's a lot of different ways that you can go about that. Committee letters, they already kind of have a preset um, path that they follow with finding letter writers for you. They'll look, most schools will look at your teachers and sit down with you and have a conversation to help them write that letter as well. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Um, Let's see. I will be there in person for an interview process and was wondering if an in-person tour of the campus would be offered. So at our in-person interviews, yes, that is the main difference between in-person and virtual, is that we have a tour of the campus for those that come for an in-person interview. But we also do campus tours every month as well. So if you can't actually come to the in-person interview, you can do that. We also have accepted students days for any students that do get offers. In the spring, they can come to campus and we give you a tour at that point as well. So lots of opportunities to come to campus. Is it detrimental to our application if we only have an MD letter of recommendation instead of a DO letter? Not at all. Having a DO shows that you kind of know what DO is and that what you're getting yourself into. But it both are physician and are looking at your clinical skills, and so that's really what's important. If you have a DO, great, but either is a physician, so either is fine. Will the interview be closed or open file? The interviews are closed or semi-open, depending on how you look at it. But essentially, we don't show any kind of academic metrics. We just do the stuff that gets to know you a little bit better. So your personal statement, your experiences, and your secondary application question answers. So those are the three things that our interviewers have access to. Everything else is blinded for the interview. Is the interview format one-on-one, traditional, or MMI? It is one-on-one. And so our interviews are about 25 minutes one-on-one with someone here from CHSU-COM. We would love to have more than one person in the room, but we're a smaller school. We don't have the staff for that just yet. Once we have a more robust alumni network, we will likely have more folks in the room at the same time. But as of right now, it is one-on-one. And then another question here. For my university has a letter packet, not a committee letter. However, they have a limit of 5 letters, and I have a physician letter that isn't included in the packet. Again, you have 6 spots, so you can include if they do, 5 different, if they take up 5 of those slots, you have that one additional spot that you can fit in there. Do you accept update letters? We do. We accept 2 though, so you get 2 total. So use sparingly, right? You want to make sure that there's significant updates in your update letter. We don't want 12 updates with one update. So make sure it's something that's significant. If you have academic updates, you'll do that in your ACOMAS application. Anything non-academic, you can send an update letter for. Just make sure that it's a significant update. Let's see. If students want to come to campus for an in-person interview, can CHSU reimburse the travel costs? We do not. So that is partially why we include the virtual option for those students that may not be able to pay to come over here, or are further away or something like that. But there, like I said, there are options that you can come that when if you're accepted and things like that, and you're for sure knowing that you're going to come here, then maybe saving it for that instead. And then that way you're not spending on the interview, on a campus visit, on this, lots of trying to save you guys a little bit of money. So we do not reimburse, unfortunately, but that's why we do provide the virtual option. Would new clinical experience hours be considered a significant update? If you just started a clinical experience and you only have a few hours, I would not consider that a significant update. If you have multiple, a bunch of new hours and a bunch of new experiences and things like that, again, you only get 2. So try and kind of combine things together so that your update letter is more comprehensive, than just, a little thing here and there. Maybe you got a publication or something like that. That's significant, right? And maybe that's not something that was on your application. If you're just, working at a place and it said 1,000 hours on your application and now you have 200 more hours, I wouldn't consider that as significant, if that makes sense. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.